Hello everyone, my name is Ginger Ninja, and today I would like to make a Dragon Ball discussion video talking about Yamcha, who in actual fact is my favourite character in the entire series. A lot of people are going to hate me for that, but anyway, I'd like to address certain negative points that people have against Yamcha. I guess there are some valid points. I can accept that there are several things that Yamcha does wrong in the series, but I think he cops it worse than it actually is. Then I just like to address certain arguments by the community that I see very often. So the first argument I want to address is the Cyberman incident, probably the most famous fail in Yamcha's arsenal. So I sort of don't understand why people hate and dislike Yamcha for this. I mean, it certainly wasn't the most stunning thing you could ever see, but it certainly isn't something to hate the character for. So before I actually talk about the scene in depth, I'd like to address the sort of lack of logic there, saying that you hate a character because they lost to someone of similar strength. They were of similar strength. I'll get into that later. But you're saying that you dislike someone or hate them because they lost. I don't get that. That's pretty much saying that anyone who's lost in the series, you must hate them because they've lost. It's not a valid point to dislike the character. Okay, so now referring to the fight, the Daizenshuu, which is the Dragon Ball the encyclopedia, mentions that Yamcha's power level is 1,480, and that the Cyberman's is 1,200, and which is, I believe, similar to Raditz. So with that information, we have Yamcha as being stronger than the Cybermen. But hang on a minute, if Yamcha's stronger than the Cybermen, why did he lose? That's what a lot of people that dislike Yamcha for this fact would say, but they fail to recognize that there actually was a fight before Yamcha got blown up by the Cybermen, and in that fight, Yamcha completely dominated. There was like one instance where he got hit, and the rest of the fight was just him obliterating this Cyberman. And he destroyed it and assumed it to be dead, or at least knocked out, so he just left it and then got caught off guard when he failed to recognize that it wasn't completely knocked out or anything. And getting caught off guard isn't really a valid excuse to dislike him, because Goku and Vegeta are always getting caught off guard. It's not really a Yamcha staple to get caught off guard. It happens a lot for several characters. So for my second point, I have probably the most ridiculous reason to dislike Yamcha, and it follows from that last point. Everyone says Yamcha is weak. And, okay, in comparison to the Z Fighters, Yamcha's pretty weak. He's like one of the weakest in the entire entire Z Fighters. Probably only surpassing like Chiaotzu and maybe a couple others. I don't know, probably not. But in comparison to the rest of the world and the rest of the universe, he's incredibly powerful. Like pretty much no one in the rest of the universe could compete with him, except for like the gods and the angels and, of course, the Z Fighters. In other universes, he probably wouldn't stand a chance, but still, he's incredibly strong in comparison to anyone else on Earth and the majority of the universe. So, saying he's weak in comparison to the Z Fighters is true, but in comparison to the rest of the universe, not so much. Also, as I mentioned before, don't you think it's a bit strange if you hate a person because they're less physically capable? I understand this is Dragon Ball and you want everyone to be strong, but people like Bulma and all that, everyone loves all those sorts of characters, but they're not strong. They're still good characters, though. And Yamcha is still as strong. He's just not as strong as your precious Vegeta and Piccolo and Goku and stuff. It's a bit strange to hate someone based on their power and their strength. One of the last things I want to talk about is Yamcha's usefulness throughout the entire series. In Dragon Ball, I deem him a particularly useful character. He is always there to help and stuff, and even in Z, he's like that. It's just he became less relevant when he became less powerful. With Dragon Ball, yes, he was very relevant and very useful, but in Z, it started to lack. But he still did have his moments when he did alert all the Z Fighters to the android's ability to have their energy absorbed. I suppose
other characters could have done that if they had been in that position, but also Yamcha could understand that his power wasn't useful against the androids, so he offered to take Goku back to his house and get the medicine. And although he didn't help in with power and strength, he did help with he did help Goku recover, and he helped all the characters he helped to beat the androids, is what I'm saying. He may have not have been a powerhouse, he may not have fought a massive amount, but he still had his usefulness within all of the sagas. So one last thing I want to mention is a filler instance that a lot of people use with their argument that Yamcha isn't useful and that he isn't dedicated to training. This instance is when Yamcha is preparing for the attack of the androids, and he is in a gym weightlifting, and rather than lifting the weights or training or anything, he's just looking at women that are doing a yoga class. The scene was funny. I like filler scenes, especially in the original Dragon Ball. I love that. But in this, it depicts him that he is not training, he's not dedicated to preparing to fight the androids like everyone else was. And a lot of people use this as their argument to purvey that Yamcha isn't dedicated, he doesn't want to train. But I've chosen not to regard filler as a valid excuse to make a point, because it wasn't originally in the manga, it wasn't written by Akira Toriyama. And I don't know what his involvement with the anime was, whether he had a massive involvement or none at all. But it wasn't originally in the manga, so I don't regard that as a credible source. But that pretty much rounds it off. I think I'm going to round this video up now. I think I've said everything that I want to say for now. I might say something in the future, but this is all I want to say for now. And so, please, if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and please leave a comment if you have another point that you think is valid and you'd like to discuss it, because I'd love to respond to it. I'd love to show you what I think, and that is all I have for you guys today, and I will see you very soon.